Hey guys, my name is Donnie and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another very exciting video, because as the title suggests, in today's video I plan on making a race car body. Guys, I sometimes feel like I should be paying someone to have this much fun, and today is no different. Because guys, doing these types of projects and challenging myself every now and again to do something very different is right up my alley. I love doing that. So guys, I'm going to show you in today's video, I'm going to be making this race car body. So let me flip the camera around and we're going to start at the start and we'll take it away. Okay guys, so starting at the beginning, here is a picture of the car that I've been challenged to build. My client has asked me to make a fiberglass body of this Aston Martin Vantage, and I reckon it is absolutely a gorgeous looking car. I hope I'll be able to do him justice. Now guys, my client has already made the race car. He's got a running race car. He just needs me to make a body that he can put onto that race car. And building this body is going to be a little bit easier than making a road going car, because I don't have to worry about door jams and inner panels and stuff like that. It's just basically going to be a shell that he'll be able to clip on and clip off of his race car for easy access. So making this body is going to be much easier than making a road going car, even though the principle is the same. Now guys, when making a body like this, there's a couple of options. One is that you could, for instance, sculpt this body out of something like, say, clay or something like that. Sculpt the body and then take a mold off of that clay sculpture, flip it around, and then put some fiberglass on the inside and pop it out, and you've got yourself a body. Now that's kind of the way that how I did the motorhome's nose cone. But guys, in this video, or the way that I'm going to do this, is a little bit different, a little bit easier, and I'm going to have faster results. And that is, guys, that I'm going to be sculpting the car and then putting a couple of layers of fiberglass on top of that sculpture. And when I'm finished with it, I can just flip it around and then clean out the inside, and I'm going to have myself a body that I can then just sand down and put some primer on it, and I'm going to have a body that is complete. And the way that I'm going to be making that sculpture is by using this polystyrene foam blocks that I'm going to be sculpting into a car that looks like this. Well, that's the idea. Now guys, the first step when making something like this is to get a platform onto which you can sculpt or put your polystyrene foam and then start sculpting. And what I've gone ahead and done is I've taken this chipboard panel and I've drilled a couple of holes in it, and I put some threaded rod in there, and I just leveled it out to make sure that it's absolutely square and absolutely level on this irregular floor that I've got over here, so that I can now start putting the polystyrene on top of that chipboard over there and start sculpting my car. Now I'm going to be going through the whole process with you, but basically the first step now, or the second step, is I've gone ahead and I drew out a picture, and I just made a bit of a mock-up of exactly where I'm going to be putting these polystyrene panels so that I can start sculpting, because it's going to be hollow on the inside. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start strategically bonding these blocks onto that base over there using this adhesive that is water-based, that will not destroy these polystyrene blocks. And after that, I'm going to show you guys exactly how I plan on sculpting an exact replica of that picture into this polystyrene. So without any further ado, let's get going. So guys, I nearly forgot to tell you about a very important piece of information, and that is that I went ahead and I had this drawing printed out on a scale of 1:1, that I then went ahead and just traced along this piece of hardboard. And I'm going to cut out this piece of hardboard and use it kind of as a stencil that I can then use for the beginnings of my polystyrene sculpture. So I'm going to be cutting a left hand view as well as a right hand view, and I can put it on top of that platform and then place my polystyrene blocks in such a manner that I'll be able to then cut it perfectly along the perimeter of my drawing. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing with the side view as well, but I'll tell you all about that in a couple of minutes. So let me start with this, and then we'll take it from there. so here lays the beginnings or the foundation of what's going to become my car. I've got this pattern laid out, and this pattern is going to help me make sure that my car is going to stay perfectly symmetric and within the dimensions that I'm looking for. Now I can start putting the polystyrene blocks into position so that I can start cutting them and forming them and shaping them. But guys, these blocks are too large. I need to cut them down into smaller pieces. And what I've gone ahead and done is I made this rudimental hot wire cutter. I use this nichrome wire. Some people use guitar string, but I use this nichrome wire, and I just bent a piece of old pipe into position, isolated it with some insulation tape, and then ran a wire to a 12-volt battery because it delivers enough amperage to heat this one up, and I've got a charger on that battery as well. So now I can start cutting my boards into the shapes that I'm looking for, that I can then place on that base over there and start building the blocks that's going to become my car. Alrighty guys, so I've now finished putting all of the blocks into position and I've got the basic shape of my car. And I also went ahead and I used some of this expanding foam, polyurethane foam, just to fill all the cavities, making sure that everything fits nicely. Now I can wait for it to dry, and after it's dried I can start shaping my car. And the first step in shaping the car is I've gone ahead and I've made two of these side profiles out of hardboard, one over there, using my original 1-to-1 sketch, and I'm going to be putting it on both sides of this polystyrene block. And then I'm going to once again use this hot wire cutting method and just follow the profile of my two hardboard shapes so that I can get the basic shape of the car. So let's get going. Alrighty guys, this is exciting times. We have now finished cutting out this basic shape of the car, both in its horizontal as well as in its vertical dimension. And now begins the fun part, and that is that I'm going to be using this model car as well as some of the drawings, start marking out on this polystyrene block, and then start chipping away with my hot wire cutter so that I can start getting that three-dimensional shape that I'm looking for. So that's going to be the next step, and then we're going to start finishing it off for fiberglass. So let's get going. Okay guys, loads and loads of progress. I've now spent a lot of time cutting away with my homemade hot wire cutter to get the profile of this polystyrene to start looking like a car. And as you guys can see, I also went ahead and I made many patterns out of hardboard of the windshields and also the openings in front, and I also made aluminium headlights just to make sure that everything stays within the parameters of my model. I also went and made lots and lots of these aluminium profiles that I could use to make sure that everything stays symmetric and within the parameters of my model. And as you guys can imagine, I spent a lot of time going back and forth between the model and my drawings and the actual car, just scaling everything up and making sure that the final product still looks very much like the Aston Martin that I plan on building. Now guys, now comes the next step of the process, and that is that I need to start finishing off everything that I've now been cutting away with my hot wire cutters. And I'm going to be using a couple of processes, but one of which is I'm going to be using this steel brush, this welding brush, and I'm going to start just sanding away at this polystyrene model to get everything nice and smooth and start finishing up and just defining all of the lines that I'm looking for. Now guys, as you can imagine, this is going to be a very messy process, so I'm going to be covering up this part of my workshop as best as I can to try and eliminate all the bubbles from going everywhere. So guys, sit back and relax, enjoy some royalty-free music, and let me get on with this job. Alrighty guys, check it out. I've now finished using this wire brush to get all the lines for my model exactly where I wanted them, continuously going back to my model and just making sure that everything was still within the parameters. And now it is time for me to start refining the sculpture, and I'm going to do that by using this sanding block that I've got with normal production sanding paper. That's the stuff that you use when you're sanding down a body filler on a normal car, and I'm going to use that to just refine my model and also make sure that all of my lines are perfectly straight and flat before I can start applying the fiberglass. So let's get going. Alrighty guys, I've now finished sanding down this body, and once again it is really starting to look like business. Every single step that I take makes it look more and more like the car or the product that I'm looking for. And I also went ahead and recessed these cavities where the windows goes by using my hardboard patterns, just so that I'll be able to know exactly where the windows go when I start fiberglassing this thing up. Now guys, the reason why I'm going through all of the steps with you is that maybe this video might give someone inspiration to one day build something like this themselves. And that's why I'm going through all the steps, and I'm going to also bullet the steps in the description of this video so that whoever wants to do something like this might be able to learn from my mistakes. Now guys, the next step in this process is that I'm going to be painting this whole car with normal household PVA paint, the stuff that you use to paint your outside of your house. And the reason why I'm doing that is to start giving it a nice hardened shell that I can also then use to just make sure that all the lines are absolutely perfect, and I can then fill all the cavities and stuff like that with normal crack filler, the stuff that you use to fix walls in your house. And I'm going to give it a couple of layers, and then I'm going to start sanding it down. First I'm going to give it a white layer of PVA, and then crack filler, and I'm going to apply it the same way that you would, for instance, body filler on a normal car. And then I'm going to give it a couple of layers of grey PVA primer, PVA paint, just so that I can just have a better visual of what this car looks like and make sure that all of my lines are absolutely perfect. So let me do that, and we can take it from there. Alrighty guys, I've now spent multiple days working on this sculpture, and guys, I cannot express enough how many times I had to go back to my model and double check and make sure that all the lines were perfect, and use my patterns there at the back to just make sure that the left hand side and right hand side were absolutely perfect. I had to go through the car from bumper to make sure that everything and all the lines are absolutely exactly where I wanted them. And the reason for that is that the next step is kind of like a final step. Whatever I did not do correct from here is gonna stay with the car for the rest of its days. Now guys, that brings us to the next step of this whole process, and that is that I'm gonna start layering the fiberglass, which is very, very exciting. And guys, full disclosure, I'm gonna be doing it a little bit different this time. In actual fact, I've never done it this way before, so I have no idea how it's going to work and whether it's going to work and whether I'm going to struggle or not doing it. But guys, usually when you make a fiberglass body like this, like the one there at the back, you use chopped strand fiberglass. It looks like this, and some polyester resin, and you can easily manipulate the chopped strand and just put a couple of layers of chopped strand on your car with some polyester resin, and you're going to have yourself a product. Now the way that I'm going to do it is a little bit different this time, is that I'm going to be using woven fiberglass mat. It is very much the same as carbon fiber, and I believe it's also going to be a little bit more difficult to work with, but I'm going to have far superior results, a lighter weight product, and also a far stronger product. And the other added benefit is that when I use the epoxy resin that comes with this kit, it will not eat away at the polystyrene foam underneath all of this paint. Now guys, the first step in this process is that I'm going to put down a layer of what is called peel ply. It is a nylon product that is nice and soft and malleable and flexible, that I'm going to layer on top of this car with some of my epoxy resin. That's going to help in the process of delaminating the fiberglass afterwards off of this polystyrene body or sculpture. And the other added benefit is that it'll help smooth over all the imperfections. And when we're done with that, then we can start layering this woven mat on top of it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with this peel ply, layer it on top of the body, and see what type of results we get, and then we can start laying fiberglass. Alrighty guys, check it out. So we have now installed or put on the first layer of peel ply, and now we've got a nice and smooth surface onto which we can install all of the layers of fiberglass. And I also went ahead and made these side skirts as per the original, and now we're gonna continue by laying woven matte fiberglass on top of this peel ply, and then putting another layer of peel ply on top of all of that after we've smoothed it down, so that we'll be able to peel it off when it is nice and dry, and hopefully we'll have a nice and smooth surface. So let's get going. Alrighty guys, check it out. We've got the first couple of layers done on the car. So the bonnet's done. It's got 3 layers of woven mat on it, and it is staggered very specifically. We've got these 45-degree weaves first, and then we've got this 90-degree mat in the middle, and then another layer of 45 degrees. So we've got 3 layers on the car, and we staggered it in such a manner that we can easily continue from here on out and make sure that we've got 3 layers all over the car. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that we do put a bit of coloring inside in the resin so that we can easily see where the layers end, so that we can continue perfectly on top of that. What are we going to do from here on out? Just pull away this peel ply and we can easily continue on top of this fiberglass to the back. Now guys, that brings me to another question, and that is, and I'm sure that many of you guys are going to ask me in the comments, how much stronger is this fiberglass or this way of layering it compared to chop strand? And honestly, even though I know that this is far superior and stronger than chop strand, I don't know exactly how much stronger it is. And for that reason, we've decided on making a couple of test strips. And what we're going to do is we're just going to layer 3 layers of normal chop strand, and then the 3 layers the way that we're doing it on this car, just to see how much stronger this method is compared to chop strand. We're also going to be layering the conventional 6 or 5 or 6 layers of chop strand, so that we'll be able to compare the conventional way of layering fiberglass on kit cars compared to this one. And then as an added bonus, we also decided we're going to do some carbon fiber, also 3 layers only, so that we can just compare it with the way that we're doing it now and see how much stronger carbon fiber is compared to normal fiberglass. But in case, I'm going to do this in the background, and we're going to continue with the car, and then we'll see some results a bit later on. Alrighty guys, results are out, and it is very much unexpected and very interesting. I know that carbon fiber is by far superior to the rest, but it does come with a set of T's and C's that you need to follow for it to become very strong. But let me just tell you exactly what's going on here. We now made up all of these sample pieces and cut them to size, and I also went ahead and weighed them all just so we can have some sort of a reference as to the weight of these sample pieces. The carbon fiber is by far the lightest. It comes in at 42 grams. If you compare that to the conventional 5 or 6 layers of fiberglass you usually use on a kit car, it is at least 3 times lighter in weight. And also our method is at least twice as light as what the conventional method is. Now guys, we just went and did a bit of a comparison and tried to bend all of these sample pieces just to see how much they bend and flex before they break. Now let me tell you, this 5 or 6 layer fiberglass chop strand is extremely sturdy. It does not budge at all, and I think that is why it is so preferable to use, especially when making molds and stuff like that, because you know that your mold will not budge at all. But the disadvantage is that it is extremely brittle. It was very, very strong, very difficult to bend, but as soon as we started bending it, it just snapped in half like that. Now the 3-layer fiberglass is also much harder and stiffer than the alternatives, but once again we just bent it a little bit and it broke. Now the interesting thing is that this carbon fiber, the 3 layers of carbon fiber, was much stronger than what this fiberglass piece is over here, but it also eventually broke. Whereas our piece, or the way that we're doing the Aston Martin, we've been bending away at this thing like you cannot believe, like hundreds of times, and it just stays absolutely perfect. It's even started becoming white here because we probably bent it like 100 times, but it still hasn't broken compared to the carbon fiber. So doing it this way makes this fiberglass even stronger than carbon fiber, which is absolutely incredible. But let me tell you guys, the reason why the carbon fiber probably broke is because we laid the strands all in one direction. We did not go cross at a 45 or at an angle, which really was a disadvantage for the carbon fiber. Otherwise it would probably have been very strong. But I can tell you guys that this method of laying fiberglass is far superior to the chopped strand, and we will probably never go back again because the results we are getting with this is absolutely amazing. Anyways guys, now we're going to continue fiberglassing the rest of the Aston Martin and then peel off the peel ply and see what our results look like. Holy moly guys, check it out. We have now completed fiberglassing this Aston Martin body, and man, let me tell you, it is looking absolutely amazing. It took us about 4 days to fiberglass this whole car, which was leaps and bounds faster than what it would have taken doing it the conventional way with some chop strands. So once again, I rest my case. We are never doing it any other way again. This will be the way we're going to do it forever, and the results are absolutely amazing. It is nice and smooth, and we can now apply primer on top of this fiberglass without even treating it. It'll go on straight, but we will sand it down just a little bit to get rid of some of the high points. But guys, I am so stoked with these results. It is looking absolutely amazing. Now guys, comes the next part of this whole chapter, and that is that we're going to start cutting this body into pieces, into its individual pieces, that is then going to be laid on top of the race car. I'm going to start marking out exactly where we're going to start cutting the front end and the middle section and the rear part, and then cut it apart. And then in the next scene you're going to see me starting to fiberglass the inside edges and just finishing off a little bit, and then maybe cutting out the wheel wells and the doors and the windows and so on. Anyway guys, let's get going. Alrighty guys, I've now cut this whole car into many pieces and made a mountain of rubbish that we need to throw away. But guys, now it's almost time for us to gouge out the remaining bit of polystyrene that's on the insides of all these panels. And guys, if you're going to be building a road going car and you would like door jambs and stuff like that, this would be the time now to start making the door jambs and fiberglassing it in before you remove the polystyrene. A thing that I'm going to do now before I start removing the last bits of polystyrene, guys, is because this polystyrene adds a bit of stiffness to these panels, I'm going to use it in my advantage. And what I want to do is I just want to make a bit of a lip on all of the panels about the thickness of this flat bar that's going to go all around these panels, just to strengthen them a little bit. They don't need to be as strong as a road going car because it's going on a race car, but I'm going to use this moment now to just recess this polystyrene a little bit and make a spot where I can just add a very narrow layer of fiberglass all around all of these panels to strengthen them. And then after I've done that, we can take out all of the remaining polystyrene, so we're going to have ourselves a set of beautiful lightweight body panels. Alrighty guys, check it out. 1 times fiberglass body that is now ready to be fitted onto the race car, which is very exciting. Guys, we did get a bit carried away in the last couple of minutes of the video, and we have now taken out all the polystyrene and then refitted all these body panels together again and made these aluminium standoffs and just riveted everything back together again so that all the body lines and the gaps and everything would be perfect, and so that this fiberglass body can now be lifted into its new home and then be built onto the race car. But guys, this is as far as I'm gonna go with this video, because it is becoming a very long video, and the main focus of this video was just to show you guys how I make a fiberglass body from scratch without any bucks or anything like that. And like I said, I love using the polystyrene to start off with because it's easy to work with and it's inexpensive, and you can easily change and adjust your body and your shape before you put the fiberglass on. And also, like I said, this cross weave fiberglass is definitely the way to go going forward. With the peel ply, it just gives an absolutely beautiful finish that can easily be sanded down and given a primer, a layer of primer, and then finished off. And also, like I said, if I was going to make a road going car instead of a race car, I would have used the polystyrene in my advantage to make things like the door gaps and stuff like that and finish it off, and then put some fiberglass on the inside. But anyways guys, that's going to be it from my side. This has been probably the longest video I've ever made so far, but I really wanted to show you guys just how the process is and how we do it here at the shop, and hopefully you'll find it inspiring and maybe one day want to do something like this yourselves. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Cheers.